It's been, what, like 2 whole entire years since we've gotten a 5-star Geo character? Well, Navia's here, and I'm about to equip you with the knowledge, the gear, the weapons, the artifacts, and the teammates you need to make this character the absolute monster that you want her to be, with a build that will allow you to protect Fontaine for forever. So let's make sure you actually know how she really works. Step 1, Navia isn't going to work how you think she is. She's a Geo element DPS, but she's not going to work with a lot of the other atypical Geo damage supports that we have access to in Genshin Impact, meaning that she's Geo, so you can't buff her damage up with stuff like the Animal Viridescent Venemer set or a lot of other options in that way. She's also an attack scaling Geo character, so the likes of characters like Goro aren't going to do that much for her, and the likes of characters like Yunjin aren't going to do a ton either, as she's more elemental skill and elemental burst focus and not really normal attack focus. Her elemental skill is going to lead you to do big, huge damage. 2 uses, even at Constellation 0, is something that I personally like to see a lot. And this skill is going to do bonus damage and more shots and more damage the more crystallization shards you are able to pick up. You're going to want to pick up at least 3 of these shards, as picking up 3 shards is going to give you 3 crystal shrapnel, which is going to allow her to shoot 11 shots of her shard shot elemental skill. If all of her shots, all 11 of them, hit the same target, it's going to do 200% of the bonus damage dealt, meaning that she's going to have a huge amount of burst damage from her elemental skill. And this thing only has a 9-second cooldown. But that doesn't stop there, because when you consume more than 3 crystal shrapnels, you consume all the way up to 6 of them, you're going to increase the damage by Gunbrella, because in addition, when more than 3 charges of crystal shrapnel are consumed, every charge consumed beyond those 3 will increase the damage dealt by this Gunbrella shot by an additional 15%. And it doesn't end there, because there's even a hold mode that's going to help you quickly collect some crystallization shard reaction crystals off of the field, suck them up, and use that as ammo in case you don't want to walk over and pick them up with her naturally. Oh, and one more thing, she's going to have an Ascension passive called Undisclosed Distribution Channels, where you're going to get 4 seconds of imbue for her normal charged as well as plunging attacks to Geo damage, and it cannot be overridden by other elemental infusions. This also is going to increase her damage of her normal charge and plunging attacks by 40%, meaning that with 2 uses of your elemental skill, you can have up to 8 seconds of infusion in field time, using her as a hyper carry of sorts, mixing in elemental skills with normal and charge attacks, and also her elemental burst. Oh yeah, her burst, let's talk about that real quick. Her elemental burst is pretty straightforward. It has a 60 energy cost, and it's going to unleash a massive cannon bombardment on opponents in front of her, dealing AoE Geo damage while also providing additional cannon fire support for a duration afterwards. And this fire support is going to periodically deal additional Geo damage to nearby opponents. When this cannon fire support hits, she's going to gain 1 charge of her crystal shrapnel towards her elemental skill, and you can gain 1 of these charges every 2.4 seconds out of the 12 seconds that the cannon fire support is going to last. So in some instances like the Abyss, you're going to be able to start with her elemental burst and use some other characters that provide off-field elemental damage, such as Xingqiu or Yelan, to generate some crystallization reactions, but also generate ammo directly from her elemental burst as well. So let me razor language her rotation to you real quick. It won't take but a second. Her rotation, at least this is going to be a napkin rotation, is very easy to do as long as you have someone applying off-field applications of different elements. Think someone like Xingqiu or Yelan to apply Hydro, or Raiden, Shogun, or Fischl to apply Electro. You'll start with those characters, swap into your Navia, use your Navia's elemental burst. Your Navia's elemental burst is going to do 2 things. It's going to do Geo damage, but it's also going to give you crystal shrapnel towards your elemental skill. But also on top of the actual crystal shrapnel you're getting, because you're doing Geo plus Hydro or Geo plus Electro with your supports, you're going to also generate actual crystallization shard reactions that you can then suck up with your elemental skill on Navia and fire off that full 6-round crystal shrapnel. This is going to do huge damage and also give you 4 seconds of infusion on your Navia. This is going to allow you to do Geo damage with your normal and charged attacks. All this time, your elemental burst is still raining down Geo damage, allowing you to generate more crystallization shard reactions. And on top of just your elemental burst, your normal and charged attacks are now Geo as well. This is going to allow you to generate additional crystallization shards, pick those up, and in that 4-second window of your infusion, you'll generate enough crystallization shards to get a decently powerful elemental skill off once again, leading to another 4-second window of infusion for your Navia. Once that 4-second window is done, you can swap back out to your other characters, whether it's Xingqiu, Yelan, Raiden Shogun, Benny Boy, whoever it is that you want. Use all of their supportive skills again, and then swap back into Navia, ready to rock and roll once more. She's not going to be your traditional Geo-centric character. She's going to be sort of almost like an elementless character. She just wants the crystallization shard reaction. She doesn't really work super well with other Geo characters. You can use someone like Zhongli to protect her and increase the amount of crystallization shards you can get from his pillar, or someone like Albedo. But outside of that, you're kind of just using her with non-Geo characters to just do big damage and be this hyper carry queen that we all know and love. So if you're a mono Geo main, you just loving mono Geo teams, she's probably not going to be a character for you. And this is also represented in one of her passive talents, which is going to give you 20% increased attack for each Pyro, Electro, Cryo, or Hydro party member you have in your party. This is going to allow you to run her with one other Geo character if you so desire, probably Albedo or Zhongli. And then it's going to allow you to run 2 non-Geo characters, non-Dendro characters, non-Animo characters to get that increased 40% attack from her passive. This is all at Constellation 0, and she reminds me of a big burst nuke who just does some additional uptime field DPS. She actually reminds me of the Hyper Raiden carry playstyle, where you swap in Raiden Shogun after you've popped Benny or Kujo Sara stuff. You do the big damage with your elemental burst, and then you have that 7 seconds or so of field time with your Raiden Shogun. Navi's gonna have that 8 seconds due to her elemental infusion, though there's gonna be some animations locking you between using your 2 different elemental skills. And she's gonna have her own signature weapon that's going to have crit rate as the main stat, which could be awesome. It's gonna give you a ability that gives you increased attack 20% and refinement rank 1, and then it's gonna give you a stacking damage bonus every time you pick up crystallization elemental shards from these reactions. Each of these is gonna give you 18% increased damage. You can have a total of 36% increased damage at refinement rank 1. Once you use your elemental skill though, you're going to lose this 36% bonus damage until you pick up 2 more shards, which, if you followed along the little rotation we just went through, plays exactly perfectly with that rotation. However, you're not going to need this weapon, which is a blessing in disguise, because unlike someone like Noelle or Arataki Ito that comes with weird, unique weapons that can only be used for them, such as the Red Horn Stone Thresher, being an attack scaling character like Navia is, you can use something like the Wolf's Gravestone or even the Unforged, because even if you don't have a shielder in your team, you're still going to be generating those crystallization reactions, and this is going to allow you to have a shield of some kind because they do count, allowing you to get the double attack bonus from the Unforged. For 4-star options, let's start with the Battle Pass weapons. The new one, the Talking Stick, does give you a significant amount of bonus attack as well as bonus damage with crit rate on it. However, keep in mind that a lot of these bonus effects are tied to whether or not you're actually affected by certain elements. So for example, having someone like Bennett in your party is going to give you a decent way for you to have the ability to have yourself affected by pyro element. And while this is a decent Battle Pass weapon option for a 4-star, it pales in comparison to the best 4-star option as a Battle Pass weapon in the version of the Serpent Spine. In fact, the Refinement 5 version of Serpent Spine is just slightly worse than the Refinement 1 version of her own signature weapon. So if you pick between 2 different weapons that you're going to pick from your Battle Pass for Navia, use the old one, get Serpent Spine, don't go for the Talking Stick. Other fantastic 4-star options include the Black Cliff, which you can buy out of the Star Glitter Exchange Shop. The Black Cliff gives you crit damage as its main stat and gives you stacking attack percent bonuses upon defeating enemies. Even something like the Crafted Prototype Archaic, while not the best, is a still pretty great option for Navia. It's only going to be around 18% worse than her own Refinement 1 signature weapon. And as of patch 4.3, we're going to have a new weapon you can gain access to that's going to be a little bit better with the more mellow swines that you help out. It's going to give energy recharge, which is going to help you obtain that 60 energy cost for her elemental burst, and it will give you a little bit of attack as well. So you shouldn't have any trouble really finding a weapon to use on this character. When looking for artifact sets, there's really 2, possibly 3 that should have your attention. The first one's going to be the new Geo set introduced right now in patch 4.3. This is going to give you attack percent of 18% as a 2-piece bonus, and the 4-piece bonus in the grand scheme of things is going to give Navia 50% geo damage, as this 4-piece bonus is maximized just by the way that Navia wants to be played, by picking up crystallization reaction shards. Obtaining these shards and obtaining that 50% damage bonus will not be hard, and this is going to give you a solid damage increase for your Navia overall. However, if you don't want to farm up a brand new artifact set just to try out Navia, and you do also have access to Farina on your account, then look no further than the Marchuse Hunter set. While the 2-piece is incentivizing using and buffing up normal and charged attacks, which are something Navia does do, it's not the main focus of her build, but it is something that you are going to be using. This is going to be a decent 2-piece bonus. The 4-piece bonus is really what we're looking at here, as it's 36% increased crit rate. And while it can be hard to either gain or lose HP on demand, with Farina in your party, you're going to be able to do this basically whenever it is that you desire. This is going to be by far one of her best sets for Navia, and it's going to be the set that's going to make Navia the easiest for you to build her with. You're going to have a fantastic crit to crit damage ratio, especially if you're using some of the weapon options we talked about before, like the Serpent Spine or her own signature weapon that give a crit rate increase, or even something like the Black Cliff weapons that have a crit damage increase. Do keep in mind though that this set isn't as effective or effective at all without Farina in your party. However, Navia and Farina pretty much go together like peanut butter and jelly, as there's not a ton of ways to really buff up the damage that Navia can do, as she is Geo Element. You can't use an Animo character like Kazuho with the Viridescent Venerer set to buff up your Navia. You're looking to characters like Farina as well as Bennett to get the most out of your new Taylor Swift girl. And I'm going to throw this in here so you're not mistaken. Don't look at the old Geo sets like Opulent Dreams, etc. It's not going to be that great of a set for Navia. She is a Geo character, but she's an attack scaling character. And honestly, the most sad thing about Navia is that those are pretty much the only sets that work well with her. Her being an attack scaling Geo character means she doesn't work well with the old Geo sets like we just talked about, while her being an elemental skill focused attack scaling character means that there's not a ton of other sets that are going to work well with her either, as she's Geo Element. Or you can even try your hands in a big nuke build using the Golden Troop set. Just bring her out, use your skill, leave, come back, use your skill again. Don't use any of the Geo infusion. Someone's going to do it. It's going to be a YouTube thumbnail somewhere, I'm sure. And being a Geo character that doesn't really synergize with other Geo characters leaves you open to a lot of flexible team compositions with this character. When looking for characters to utilize in your party with Navia, there's going to be so many that you can utilize. So let's start with the Hydro ones. First and foremost is going to be Farina, who's going to be an off-field Hydro applicator as well as damage dealer. This is going to help you generate crystallization reactions for your Navia's elemental skill, and on top of that, Farina's elemental burst is going to grant you the ability to further increase the damage that your Farina does with her percent damage bonuses. Another character like Yelan is very similar to Farina, off-field Hydro damage bonus, and with Adept with Ease and a Clarion dice, you're going to have another way to bump up the damage percent bonus to your Navia while she is on field, buffing up her elemental skill, her elemental burst, as well as her infused normal and charged attacks. Another great off-field Hydro applicator will be Xing Cho, and he is the most defensive of the three options, as he's going to give you damage mitigation and resistance to interruption, as well as a small amount of healing for your Navia while she is on field. He's also going to be able to apply Hydro with his fantastic elemental burst option. Fischl is going to be another fantastic option for you. She's known for her off-field damage contributions and her ability to quickly do electro applications to opponents with her Oz and her elemental burst. Fischl is going to be a fantastic partner in a Navia team. Bonus points if you have Constellation 6 Fischl, and you're going to be able to do bonus attacks with your Oz and bonus crystallization reactions from this magnificent constellation. You know him, you love him, you maybe hate him. Bennett's going to be another amazing option for your Navia team. Bennett has shown time and time again how great he is for characters who do a large amount of damage in a short amount of time. Doing burst damage this way with Navia allows you to use Bennett's elemental burst, swap into your Navia, use your Navia's elemental burst, use your Navia's elemental skills, get in with your Geo infused normal and charged attacks, and do a ton of bonus damage this way through your Bennett's giant attack buff. And Navia doesn't even care if you accidentally have a Constellation 6 Bennett, because Navia's infusion can't be overridden by other effects. Another fantastic pyro option is going to be Shang Ling, as she's going to have a couple of facets for you here. Off-field pyro application with Guoba or her elemental burst, and on top of that, you can also get a small amount of attack percent bonus from the little pepper that Guoba is going to drop. You can also utilize both Shang Ling and Bennett, who we just talked about, in your Navia team for a ×2 Pyro, ×2 Geo element team, where you have Geo Resonance for your Navia, bonus damage that way, as well as Pyro Resonance for your Navia on top of that, giving you up to 65% bonus attack between Pyro Resonance as well as your Navia's Talent Ascension trait. If you're looking for off-field cryo applicators, there are a ton out there. You can even use someone like Ganyu, who has a 100% uptime elemental burst, and cook a little spicy sauce team that way as well. Or utilize someone like Layla as your shielder and also another off-field cryo applicator. Basically, the TLDR when you're crafting your Navia team and looking for party members, look for characters who have the ability to apply elements off the field. We just named a ton of them. You can even utilize someone like Beidou. If you have a favorite that we missed, make sure that you leave it down below and let us know there. Basically, the sky's the limit, so don't be afraid to try things out. She's so Taylor Swift.